This wide receiver class is going to be treading water compared to the other ones in recent years, but there is one guy who might tread it pretty well, and his name is Laquan. Kyle Gaffner is here. I'm Adrian Fedke. Pardon the stupid puns in the beginning. I just love throwing them out there. Obviously, like I just mentioned, this class appears to have a lot less star power than the one in 2014, which featured 5 first-rounders. 2015 saw 6 first-rounders. And let me just list a couple names for you, Kyle. Odell Beckham, Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Kelvin Benjamin, Amari Cooper. That's quite a crop. I mean, how does this class stack up to those two?
It doesn't even touch the tip of the iceberg there, Adrian. But you got a couple guys that I think can be really good players or even maybe great. I like you said, Laquan Treadwell, I think, is the best out of the class here. He's got the size. He's got the hands. He runs pretty good routes. People are a little questioned about his injury with his leg last year, but I think he'll be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I definitely think if he's not top 10, he'll be free, like right there, 10, 11, 12 sort of deal. So I do think he's right there. Now, we both have him consensus number 1 wide receiver. Where would he stack up compared to the other classes? Because 2014, that was the one. You had Watkins, Evans, Odell Beckham. That is just loaded.
That's a hard class to go
They're
against.
probably all better than Treadwell, except maybe Watkins has been just slightly disappointing, but some of that has to do with the quarterback play there in Buffalo.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins is a stud. I wouldn't judge off of what he's done the past year and a half or so because of the quarterback play, because some of those games he's really broke out and you could see his talent, but he's a stud. But between all those, if he was in that class, he would be probably 4th or 5th easily. I mean, Amari Cooper has the talent on him too, but I really like him. He kind of reminds me like of Des Bryant a little bit. Not as much, but around.
Yeah, I get that. Like the physicality, the kind of get the tough catches in traffic. He reminds me of Alshon Jeffrey. That's the comparison I like to make with him.
I like that comparison too, because it's the big body. He's got the hands. He's got the school record, 202 catches at Ole Miss. Anything you throw at him, he just picks up. I don't know if you caught his pro day or anything, or even at the combine. He was getting real low passes. Looks like he can make even an Odell catch with the 3 fingers. But a lot of people didn't like his speed. I'm not too big on, like, I'm not drafting a guy he's going to drop because he ran a 4.6. So what? Do people sit on the sideline during a game with a track meter to like test it out? Like, oh my God, he just ran a 4.8. Like, no, it's game speed. It doesn't matter. He's going to be good. Plus, he's a red zone threat too. So I think the Giants might even go after him, or the Lions.
Yeah, I mean that was the point I was about to make. He's not going to wow you with speed, but it really doesn't matter because of the way he plays, how physical he is. I mean, he's just going to box you out. Like Antonio Gates likes to do. So he's going to win those jump balls, physical after the catch, and he's a pretty good blocker too, which is always underrated when dealing with wide receivers. So yeah, I mean you can't always look at the 40 time. Alshon Jeffrey didn't run a fast 40. He's pretty good, and I basically think Treadwell is going to be the same type of player.
I think so too. And you look at the guys that didn't run a 4.4 flat or lower. Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson was another one. There's a couple other guys that are stars in the league I can't remember, but I don't think it matters. And who did you have as your number 2 other than Laquan?
I have Corey Coleman, but I don't feel great about this because the system that he's in at Baylor. I think he's explosive. I think he's fast. I think he can leap out of the building. He makes things look very, very easy. Very good hands. Very instinctive when running after the catch. Gets a lot of separation, but like I just said, he's a Baylor guy. And those Baylor receivers, they haven't translated to the NFL game. And this has to do with the minimal route tree that Baylor has there in Waco. And the other thing I don't like about him is he takes plays off when he's not the number 1 or number 2 option. So he's lazy as well. But, I do kind of like him, though. I think there's talent there. Now, I know you disagree because you have him a little bit lower down on the totem pole.
I do. I do because of what you touched on, too, because of the lack of routes that they run at Baylor. I think he ran a hitch and go and all-out streaks he did a couple of times. Like, you have to do a little bit more in the NFL. But I do like his yards after the catch. He can move in space. So I think he's going to have to go somewhere that's going to get him little out routes or hooks or even a little slants because he's got speed. And his vertical is unbelievable. And he's got great hands, like you said. He kind of reminds me of Tavon Austin. You know, he's got burner speed, but he's a little guy. So you're going to have to do special plays to get him the ball, to get him in space to see if he can move with the ball. But and I did notice he did take off a couple of plays. He's got that air about him, you know. He wants to be the guy. So that's why I had him a little bit lower.
Yeah, I mean, if this was last year's class, this was 2 years before, he'd be way down there. But I don't know. There's something I like about him. I could be like completely wrong on him. Now, who's your number 2 guy? Because we're both high on this. Who you have at number 2? Because he's my number 3.
I love Jock Stockton out of TCU. He has a lot of the intangibles that Laquan has, except I think he's got the best hands in the draft. The only thing that might hurt him is the injuries that have happened this past year with his wrists and all. But you throw anything at him, he's going to grab it. He can come down with it. He's tall. He's got some speed as well. I really like him. I mean, they didn't run that many routes out there down at TCU as well, kind of like Baylor. But I think he can learn the system, learn all the routes, and be a special guy in this league.
Yeah, he's got the best mittens in the class. I mean, hands down, in my opinion. I just love his hands. And when you compare his hands, I mean, just watching him catch the ball compared to all the other wide receivers at the combine, you can see a clear distinction there.
It's so effortless.
Yes, the effort. Oh, I love players who make things look easy. That always gets me every time. He competes for the ball in traffic too. Solid after the catch. Pretty good deep threat. Just does a lot of different things well. And some of the knocks, like you just said. I mean, he did play for an attack that wasn't highly prolific when it came to passing the ball in TCU. So he had a limited route tree. But I think he's going to translate pretty well. I think he's pretty good. Yeah, I like him. So
smart.
Go. Yeah, what's up?
No, I was just saying he's smart. He's instinctive. And I'd like to see him bulk up just a little bit just because he's a little bit thinner because a couple of them corners might push him around into the linebackers if they do get on him in the run game. So I'd like to see him bulk up a little bit to push some of those guys back. But, I mean, he might ended up being better than Treadwell.
Yeah, I'm very high on him. I like him a lot. Now, that's my number 3. Who's your number 3?
I like Shepard, Sterling Shepard out of Oklahoma. This kid has it all. He, if it wasn't for the injuries, again, the injury bug really bit this kid. He might be even number 1 in this draft class if it wasn't for that. He can run all the routes. They run a lot of routes out in Oklahoma. He can block. He can catch. He's got speed, 4.4 speed. I like what he can do. It just hopefully the injury bug doesn't bite him like it did in college because he could be easily a very special guy in the second round.
Yeah, he's a quick little guy. He's 50. Yeah, I remember him very well, covering him a couple times at Oklahoma. Now, I don't have him in the top 5, but the thing is here is my top 3, that's my top 3, but everybody else after that is all kind of bunched together. I don't know if you kind of feel the same way about that.
I do, because there's not, like we said, there was one spearheading at the top of the class, but everybody would be more towards the end of the first or top of the second round, I should say. But they all do kind of the same stuff. I agree. Nobody is really taking charge and being better than them, but they all do fall in the same category.
Yeah. Number 4. Who's number 4 on your list?
I got Tyler Boyd. I really like him. Got to be a homer a little bit. Pitt Panther. Big guy. The speed might hurt him a little bit, but I really like his hands. But he did take a lot of plays off during college this year, which I don't like to see any player do that. And he dropped a lot of big passes in some big games that lost for them. But I really like him. He'll be maybe a mid-shift round. Maybe the Eagles could grab him. Not that they need another wide receiver, but you never know with Howie. But, I like Tyler Boyd a lot. Who did you have at number 4?
That's my number 4 as well. I like him. Good route runner. Gets out of his cuts pretty quickly. The thing to knock on him, like you said, is the play speed, but I think he's pretty solid. So I kind of like him.
And I just hate, when players get labeled just because of what they do at the combine. And the 40 has been so plateaued over the years that players will go above guys because they don't technically run fast. But, game speed is so much different than sitting there, putting your hand up and running, 40 yards in that quick a time. It's ridiculous.
Here's the Bitterbirds tip of the day. Tape will always be greater than workouts, pro days, combines. Here's how you got to judge the combine. If you see somebody that's pretty impressive, that's kind of jumping off the page at you, then you go to the tape and you see if the tape matches up with what you saw at the combine. That's how you use the workouts. You don't just go, ooh, he ran a 4.340. Ooh, I'm going to draft him because he's fast. It doesn't work like that.
But Al Davis did a lot. He judged a lot of that, and towards the end of his tenure, he did like to go after guys that were just big and fast. But I mean, it's ridiculous how what is the sport has become some of this time with this combine and pro day workouts. I mean, come on, like you said, the tape shows it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on,
number 5.
What's that?
I wanted to beat you to it. Who'd you have at number 5?
Number 5, a guy that's kind of risen up the draft charts. Rutgers is Leonte Carroo. I kind of just like to say his name too. First thing I noticed, I mean, this guy is very well built, for a 5'11" guy. So he's very strong, muscular for this, kind of smaller stature receiver. Big play threat, great hands, solid after the catch. I think he's pretty good. I love what I see on tape with him. If there's a knock, however, I mean, he doesn't really get consistent separation. It's kind of what I saw with Jalen Strong last year, and yeah, and I wasn't a fan of Jalen Strong, but I like Carroo, and besides seeing the separation thing, which is a concern. Mm-hmm. Besides that, he checks off all the boxes in my opinion.
I don't know too much about him. I'll have to check out the tape now that you got me intrigued. And his name does kind of have a nice ring to it. So, my number 5, I had Michael Thomas actually at Ohio State. Go Buckeyes. Can't stand Ohio State, but they do bring in some talent. He kind of reminds me of Boyd too. He was actually supposed to be the number 1 before the season's end as the number 1 wideout coming out, but a knock on him was, again, his speed. But the kid's got great hands, can run some nice routes. And I think his best part of the game is the run blocking, actually. But he's a power guy. He'll position you, get up there. He's a good red zone threat, too. So he'll fall in the later rounds. But I like Michael Thomas for a red zone threat.
Yeah. All those guys at Ohio State, they got a block under Urban Meyer all the times that they run the ball there. So important part of the game for them. All right. Moving on, let's talk about some possible sleepers. Anybody that you got an eye on that maybe no one else is talking about?
I like Lisby, actually, Jock Doxson's teammate.
Oh, yeah, Listenby, yeah.
I like Listenby, actually. He could be a nice deep threat. Talking about speed, I might actually consider him over Corey Coleman. Because the kid could get open with ease. I mean, he's got blazing speed, but he's got real nice eye coordination, too. When he's looking for the ball, he can track it real well, and in space, look out. I mean, he's got jukes for days. I really like Corey Listenby. Colby Listenby, I believe his name is.
Yeah, Colby Listenby. Yeah.
Listenby. So I think he might skyrocket and be a number 1 day, or number 2, day 2 guy. How about you?
I'll throw a name at you. Now, this guy, I saw play Temple when UMass played Temple. This is a no-name guy. He'll probably get drafted later rounds, but his name is Tajay Sharp, University of Massachusetts. Killed Temple, and he's a guy that really impressed me at the combine. So I saw these catches that he made at the combine, and I was like, ooh. So I went and watched a little bit more of him. And I like what I see. So just remember that name. When he's this year's Antonio Brown 6th rounder, Tajay Sharp.
Ajay Sharp.
Yeah. So watch, he'll probably get cut in training camp.
Never know, man. He could be the next guy. That's what's so great about the draft.
So those are some of the guys that, kind of under the radar guys that no one's talking about. Let's talk about the guys that we don't like. And one of those guys on your list that I know for a fact is Corey Coleman. So talk about why you don't like him, even though I think you already did.
I didn't like it because of his because he did take some plays off. Like I said, that's a big pet peeve of mine. I don't like when any players do that, because they think they're the best player. They don't have to go 100% all the time, which you do, in my opinion. But the routes that he ran there, it was just too basic for me. I'm not a fan of that, but he has a lot of great qualities. But that's the two that just killed me for those two. So I'm not a big fan. How about you?
Well, you clearly know that I like him, so
yep,
he's my number 2 guy. No need to elaborate. I did earlier, but I'll throw another name because I forgot to mention this one for the under the radar. Even though he's not really under the radar, Braxton Miller of Ohio State. Quick, shifty after the catch. I think he could be pretty good.
He's a project. He's really raw at running routes, but he is quick and shifty, as you saw when he was the quarterback. I mean, the guy he's got a lot of talent. He's one of those guys that you just draft, like they kind of did with Brad Hundley last year. I think they could have converted him, or what Michael Vick should have done when he came out. They should have converted him to a wideout. But he's really raw. It's maybe a project, maybe a 5th, 6th round. You take a chance on him, but he's got athleticism, so much athleticism, so you can do a lot with that.
He killed it at the Senior Bowl. He was unbelievable. The one-on-one drills, he beat like every cornerback that was on him, which was pretty incredible. I mean, this guy's a quarterback. He's playing wide receiver now and just absolutely killing it. So Yeah, that's one. One that didn't translate, his name was Matt Jones. Remember him?
How could I forget? What a Jacksonville Jaguar bust that was. One of many high picks that they wasted. That was awful. I mean, he was okay. Then he got busted for having a lot of coke and stuff. So that kind of didn't help his situation either.
No, not at all. All right, yeah, that's where we wanted to get to. So overrated guys. You talked about Corey Coleman, guy that I really, not really sure on developing nicely. I could be a bust. Will Fuller of Notre Dame, big speedster, but I question the hands.
He had a lot of drops, as you saw over this year. When balls were placed perfectly, he just dropped them. I don't know if he got alligator arms or he lost the ball up in the air. He couldn't track it as well. I mean, he does have a lot of speed. A lot of people are high on him too, going first round too.
Yeah.
I don't like his hands either. Plus, I think he's a little too small to be a slot receiver, because if he does go over the middle and get walloped, I just don't think he'd be getting up. So I'd like to see him put some weight on.
That guy, that reminds me of like Austin Pettis from St. Louis. He's like a smaller guy, but he, I mean, he drops the ball, and he's another guy that he's a little bit alligator arms too. If you remember the Rams played the Eagles a couple years ago, that was the game we were up like 34-7 or whatever it was, and they came back on us, and Austin Pettis at the end, he dropped a couple passes that, could have potentially gotten the Rams into scoring range and dropped some key balls.
I mean, that's your craft. You have to own it. Like, that's your job, dude. I feel like wide receivers should be working on their hands day in and day out, because that's something you can, work on easily. It's not like God's gift to give you that, like speed or something like that, or be able to, but you should always work on your hands. Julian Edelman was another guy that could do that.
Yeah.
But I'm back.
Well, clearly we don't have anybody that works with the jugs machine, because we dropped the ball. All right, let's move on to the tight ends now. We're not going to really get too far into this. So
one guy.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about your one guy that you want to talk about. So top tight end in the draft, who is it?
HH. Hunter Henry is out of Arkansas. Is probably I'd say the best tight end prospect I've seen since. Oh, I'm not gonna say Antonio Gates because that's just too highly touted. But he kind of reminds me like a Heath Miller, even real reliable guy. Or a Jason Witten is always going to be there, can get you the first down, great hands, soft hands, can box you out, can run routes, block, go out and receive. I mean, he's a dual threat, and that's what you have to have in this day and age. Jimmy Graham combined with, a Mercedes Lewis, can do it all. But I love the tight ends that can go up there and throw a shoulder into a guy, but they can go out and score a long route on a touchdown. I mean, I like this guy. I think he could even go top 20. That's how much I like him. How about you?
Yeah, I like him. He's solid. Best tight end in the class, obviously, but that's not really saying much. So that's my thoughts on that. So he reminds you maybe of like a Travis Kelce because he can catch the ball and he can block.
And he can block. I love Travis Kelce.
Oh, yeah. He's so, like, massively underrated. It's ridiculous.
He gets no credit. I don't know why, because he plays on the Chiefs that run the ball half the time. But, I mean.
That's the problem. Yeah. Because I remember, like, there was some dope that was arguing with me earlier this year, like a month ago, when Zach Ertz got his contract extension. And they were like, oh, Zach Ertz is just as good as Kelce. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. and then he gives me their stats. And I'm like, dude, if you're judging Zach Ertz and Kelce basically on stats, then you're an idiot. Because
passing versus running.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, we ran the second most plays of the game. Kansas City ran the second fewest, and they run the ball all the time. We throw the ball a lot. So obviously he's going to get a lot. Zach Ertz is going to get a lot more targets than Kelce is. And Kelce still had him beat by like 50 or so yards. But and then the blocking, I mean, they don't even compare. So I don't know why some Eagles fans thought Zach Ertz is like on the same playing field. He's not. It's not even close. Zach Ertz is actually kind of overrated, but.
I like Zach Ertz as a receiving threat, solely on it. He should just basically do what Jimmy Graham should do. Doesn't block, shouldn't even be on the line. Should just split out. But I like Zach Ertz a little bit. I think they should get him a little bit more involved in the passing game. But, I mean, I guess he didn't watch any football if he had an argument saying that. I think Eagles fans sometimes just like to be homers and defend their guys to a full extent.
Well, that's what that was.
Yeah, and Kansas City, should get Kelce more involved too. I mean,
I agree with that.
Could have 12 touchdowns, a year, 1,000 yards too. Like he's no. We're getting off topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm basically just going to run down my tight end top 5. So Hunter Henry's number 1, Austin Hooper of Stanford number 2, Nick Vannett of Ohio State number 3, Devin Cajuste, a wide receiver turned tight end. He's also from Stanford. Jarrell Adams number 5, South Carolina. So that's my top 5. No need to elaborate. I'm sure most of you guys don't even know who these guys are anyway. So.
They're not big. The tight end, it's not a very strong class. Usually it's not, though, for tight ends. Yeah. It's an underrated position.
Yeah, so there's that. Do you have your top 5 in front of you?
I honestly had Hunter Henry, and I had Jarrell Adams at number 2. I had Hooper over Vannett.
Okay.
And then Vannett, because he's got some blocking and he's a Buckeye, and I didn't even have a number 5.
All right. Well,
I couldn't even pull one in, to tell you the truth.
That's good enough. We got enough there. All right. Any final thoughts before we end the show? And next show will be I guess we'll do the offensive line. We'll do top 5 tackles, top 5 guards, top 5 centers. We'll just combine it into one.
Okay, we could do that, and I'm real excited to do defense. That is one of my favorites. I like D-line, so I can't wait till we do that.
Yeah, we're gonna get these things popping soon. So Sunday, Monday, when you're free again, we'll get a couple more shows in.
Absolutely, dude. I can't wait. I'm excited.
All right. So any final thought before we get out of here?
Trying to think. I'm just excited about the draft. I love talking on your show. I definitely think a little off topic, but I think the Eagles, like we were talking about earlier, could possibly go for the number 1 pick. They do need to get a franchise quarterback. Do they have enough to jump up to number 1? I hope we can talk about that soon too. Maybe we can get some information leaked if that could happen. But I definitely think they should do it.
There it is. There it is. Let's do it. Let's trade up to number 1.
Pull the trigger, man. Why not? Go big or go home.
It makes Wentz, baby. It makes Wentz. For Kyle Gaffner, I'm Adrian Fedke. We're out of here. Later.
See ya.